Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And look at these guys. We've got some of YouTube's finest Star Wars gents in the chat tonight. So, how is everybody? Nice of you to join us. Thank you very much. We've got Matt, we've got Martin, we've got DTM Dave, Shabby, Jonathan Skywalker, Andy, also known as Delvian Seek, Dez T, and Mangafandanga. How are we, gentlemen? Are we okay?
All right.
I'm so looking forward to this, Stu. When you said we were going to get together 9 of the greatest people on YouTube to sit down and chat about Care Bears the movie, I
went to the cinema to see Care Bears the movie. I loved it. I loved that film. Anyway,
and yet people have a go at me because I don't like My Little Ponies. I say because I get called a pony.
My Little Pony is getting one.
Almost come out of it. Right, before we get on to our subject topic, which is Revenge of the Sith, let's just say hello to the chat. Well, you've got Super John there. Hey. Well, nice you to join us. Then we've got an essay from Gap After Dark. So this is how Liberty dies with thunderous applause. And then what's that? Hello all. Yes, hello Gap. Nice you to join us. Thank you. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground, and you were my brother, and I loved you. Well, there you are. Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection, General Grievous. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities. Some consider to be unnatural. I quite like that line. I thought that was a good part of that film. Was that conversation? I thought he stole that scene there. Yeah. And we've got Kim and Bull. I think we're going to see the dark side of the Force on this live stream. Gap. Well, charming. Thank you very much. As we got Pelps. Somehow he's returned. Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. What's this? Got so many stories in this movie. I travelled over 5,000 miles to watch a movie that opened 8 hours after the country I live in, purely for the experience. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that when we did our My Collecting Life. So that's pretty awesome. Nice one. What else have you got to say? This is Gap. It was the what's that? To his Gap. It was the ending of the saga, and we had to be in place where it all started. Oh, okay, I'm with you. And then they're having a right little conversation here. Definitely helps. What a great experience and memories you have. I'm not going to read every single one because they're just having like their own private conversation. Who else is in the chat? Keith Knight. Hello, me old mucker. How are you? Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. I tell you what, it's roasting here. Absolutely, I'm sweating.
Have you heard of John? Have you heard this? Have you heard this, Matt? It's roasting there. Chill, Matt. It's a bit chilly for us.
Hello, not Gap. Ricardo, how you doing? Nice you to join us. Thank you. Who else? We got anybody new in the chat? I think it's the same people chatting. We got Super John again. I think that's it. Oh, Jonathan Redmond. Hello, sir. How are you? Nice you to join us. Thank you. And I think that is it. Oh, Georgie. Hello. Even all slightly toasted from the sun. Yeah. Well, she sat out in the sun today and got burnt, a donut. So there you go. Who's this? Hi all. Look at them Jedi and 2 Sith, aka Stu and Martin. Oh, charming. Thanks a lot. Very nice to say so. Right. So there's the chat. So Revenge of the Sith, episode 3. I'm going to go around, ask questions. Let's try not to talk over each other because that's a bit of a nightmare. So I'll start with Sai. When Revenge of the Sith was released, the trailers and stuff like that, all the build up, what was your expectations for that film?
I was really looking forward to it because I really like the Phantom Menace. I really did like Attack of the Clones. And knowing this was going to be the last one, I remember the trailers for it. I think it was one of the Matrixes for Revenge of the Sith. I can't remember. But I remember seeing this trailer for Revenge of the Sith, and it completely ruined the movie for me because I was sat there and I'd watched this trailer for Revenge of the Sith, and then I'm sure it was one of the Matrixes, and then I couldn't get into it because all I kept thinking about was that trailer for Revenge of the Sith. And I just think we all knew at the time, because like spoilers weren't a thing, but they were a thing enough to let us to spoil a few things to get us excited, if you love us. So we knew that he was going to change into Darth Vader in this, and we knew certain things. So I loved Revenge of the Sith. It was great, yeah.
So was you excited, or was you curious to see how he fell to the dark side then?
I was excited. I will say it was a bit long-winded in the sense of that I wish it had have happened a lot earlier in that film. Do you know, I mean, we had 2 films with him as Anakin, and when it got to the 3rd, I thought, it could have done with him being, even though he was Darth Vader still as Anakin, I would have preferred a lot more to see him. Like I saw him in Rogue One for Darth Vader. It would have been great to see that in Revenge of the Sith. Do you know what I mean?
So, I mean, what about? I mean, I don't want to talk too much about like episode 2, but do you think he should have turned towards the end of episode 2? Then had the whole of the series? No,
because episode like the first one, he's a little boy, isn't he? How old is he? 10, 9, 10 in the first one.
Yeah.
And the second one's supposed to be 20, isn't he? And it's more of like a Jedi in this one, where it's like you expect a Jedi to be like this. Do you know what I mean? Young, fit, agile, could take anyone down. So I sort of like that. I just wish it had happened sooner in the third one. I accepted that, the role of Anakin in the same, which again, I love Hayden Christian as Anakin Skywalker, because I love unknowns in parts. When I don't know people and take over a massive part, that's when I can get more behind them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this new guy that's playing Superman, he's more Superman to me because I haven't seen him in anything. Don't know who he is. Do you know what I mean? So it was the same for Hayden Christian when he played Anakin Skywalker. So no, I wasn't disappointed. No, I thought it was done at the right time. The third one should have been the one that he turned into Vader fully, but I just wish it had been sooner in the third one.
Yeah. What about you, Des? What was your expectations for the film? Were you excited for it? What was you expecting?
Well, I've got to cast my mind back sort of 20 years, so that's the hardest thing to do for starters. Like I said, you knew where it was going to finish, and looking at the trailers, you knew that you were going to end up with Darth Vader. But it's the journey to get to there. And like I said, I think it maybe would have been a little bit, I don't want to say better, but if it had become Darth Vader a little bit earlier, so you got more of Darth Vader, more of his sort of nastiness, so I think it would have been good. But I know that the prequels get a lot more love now than they did at the time. But you know me, I loved them, absolutely loved them.
Yeah,
and when it going to watch it and seeing it all, it was great. It was great.
Cool beans. What about you, Delvian?
I was looking forward to it. I mean, I enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed the second one, and so I was looking forward to this. And like everyone said, you kind of know where it's going. It's trying to fill in the gaps, and that was part of I think the charm of the prequels is that you kind of knew where it was all leading to, but it was the detail in it. Yeah. But there was still enough surprises in there to sort of like to keep me entertained. So like Yoda and Palpatine fighting in the Senate, I love that bit. So.
Yeah. No, that was a cool scene. That was a cool scene. Absolutely. What about you, Sags?
Oh yeah, for me, like this was just part of the hype. I remember the toys coming out. I remember getting in line to get the tickets and going with we had a group of friends. But by the time this had come out, we had all moved to Seattle. So we were going to it was all new for us. We were going to a new theater, new experience, new movie. It was that whole part of the experience it wasn't just the film for me. It's part of that whole experience of going, it was cool. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved the fight at the end too.
I mean, sometimes, I used to think that he sort of like succumbed a little bit too easy in the film. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Yeah, because it should have. What comes out of it is you needed those Clone Wars cartoons to sort of fill in some of that. But I thought the Clone Wars in general was touched on very little in the films. It's like you got Attack of the Clones and it starts at the end of that movie, and then this is the end of the Clone Wars at the beginning of this movie, and you're like, geez, like that was over quick. So you didn't see what happened to him during the Clone Wars that would more like affect his desire to turn to the dark side. You know what I mean? Because there obviously had to be more to it that behind the scenes that we didn't see in the films than just what happens with Padme. You know what I mean? So there had to be more build up there to give him that mental state where the thing that happens with Padme sort of threw him over the line. But I love the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end, or I guess you could say as he's turning into Vader and Obi-Wan at the end, where it was just like such a long. We don't get a battle that long in any other film. You know what I mean? It's got to be like a 15 or 20 minute duel, right? I mean, it's mixed in with some other shots of different areas, but it's pretty cool,
Yeah. What about you, Shabs?
It's
What was
funny
your
how I've changed on this movie, because I would, if it was up to me doing the prequels, I would have made Attack of the Clones #1. This Revenge of the Sith would have been #2, and #3 would have been Vader. The new Vader fighting the Jedi and so forth. But the funniest thing is, as well, I do remember as a kid, this is what, well, early 20s, this is what we wanted. We wanted to see how Anakin turned into Vader, and so it's in a way it was a bit like a Marvel post-credit scene. You were just waiting for that scene, and it came at the end, and fair enough. But as I've got older, I've realised it's the story of Anakin Skywalker, the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. It's not really about Darth Vader, it's about Anakin, and to me, it's one of the it's up there in my top 4, top 5 Star Wars movies. I love Revenge of the Sith.
Do you think it's aged well?
I think it's aged perfect. I went to see it recently. The anniversary was out, and I went to see it, and the place was packed, and it ages perfectly. I mean, it really does. It's and I think as well, looking at it through older eyes now, I think Star Wars and the story of Star Wars is a very family orientated thing. And if you've got kids and brothers and sisters, you can kind of the feelings hit you what happens. And my little boy, who's 12, this is his favorite Star Wars movie. He loved it, and he's seen it a few times at home. But for him to go to the cinema and see it, he was blown away. He just absolutely loved it. So it's a great movie.
DTM.
When the trailer came out, I was proper psyched for it. You saw a little bit of trailers where you have the Sith eyes, and it just sort of got you going. And then Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen were excellent all the way through it, to be honest. A few dodgy lines of dialogue here and there, but it's not his fault. But
I felt Aiden's performance was a lot stronger in this film than what it was in episode 2.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're good. And the dynamic between him and Obi-Wan, they were barely together in that film.
Yeah.
They were all off doing their own thing, really, weren't they? But from the last 20 minutes, absolute class.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with Si when he said he wished he'd have had Vader a little bit sooner? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, perhaps it could have done with a bit more of him. But I think, I think we were cheated a bit just getting the last couple of minutes of the movie with him in it. But I mean, you knew what he went on to do. You knew you were going to see him again. So
yeah. I mean, I again, I've got a new sort of like respect and appreciation for the prequel trilogy because of the Clone Wars. Like, it's been mentioned already, the Clone Wars series really did flush out that sort of like storyline. So you guys,
it did.
Oh, definitely,
100% agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what about you, Matt?
I think I was going to say the Clone Wars did for Revenge of the Sith what Andor's done for Rogue One. It's not changed the movie, but you see it in a different light. There's a few more like a one-off sentences now that mean more to you. And
No, I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. Matt, what about you? What were your thoughts and what was your expectations for Revenge of the Sith?
Well, at the time, it was 20 years ago, it was you're seeing what you thought was the end of the story. It was the end of the saga, even though it's kind of like chronologically the middle, but you're seeing how Anakin becomes Vader in this film, and then the original trilogy is eventually him returning to as a Jedi. I mean, Return of the Jedi isn't Return of the Jedi Order; it's Anakin's return to the light. Yeah. So it's to see you kind of see how, the things it was. You start off with this kid who is this boy who knows nothing of greed. He's very altruistic and doesn't he's just a good person, and to see that person become probably one of the greatest villains in stories, I mean, and any that I've ever seen, in Darth, how that good person could fall and become such evil was, and the reasons for, I mean, he, it's, like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, he does these things. It's not, he always has this thing. He wants the power. He wants more things. Like in this, it was like he wants to be the Jedi Master because he feels like there's more things he should know. and and that's pushing him, but it's all ultimately to save who he loves, because I mean he's already lost one of the greatest loves in his life in his mother, in the previous film, and then now he's losing. He feels like he's going to lose his wife and children, who he's not supposed to have, but that's a whole other story. But there's a whole bit with you look at like the Jedi with the attachments and everything else, and it was but to see all this stuff and see how he falls was just amazing. It was like I wasn't like John, I wasn't camping out to see the movie, but I did buy my ticket like 2 weeks in advance, and like it was the midnight showing, so I showed up at the theater at like 6 p.m. and got in line with everyone else, kind of hung out. And it's like, but nowadays it's like you're just 2 weeks before you can buy your ticket and pick your seat. So I mean those days are gone. For the most part, so it's like it was a lot of fun. You're that evening, just being talking about stuff outside the movie. It was it was the kind of hangout. There's a whole bunch of Star Wars fans just waiting in line to see this movie, and it kind of reminded me like when I was a kid. Seeing like I can remember camping out all day, hanging out all day, trying to get to see Empire Strikes Back on opening day. It was like we're at the mall. It was like I think I've told the story when we were talking about like what made Star Wars great. So it was like my mom going to get pizza and everything while we're waiting in line just to go see or get dinner.
Experience, isn't it? Absolutely.
So it was a lot of fun. And it was like at the time it was like, well, this will be the last time we do this for God knows how long. If I don't, you thought this was the end of
well, to some people it was. Anyway, moving on.
And still is.
Martyn, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that everyone here will agree 99 to 2005 was a very special time for movies. We had this prequel trilogy, which I adored, the first two. We had the Matrix trilogy, we had the Lord of the Rings, we had all these amazing movies, and it was a real special 6 years. And it kind of ended with Revenge of the Sith. And I remember seeing the teaser trailer for Revenge of the Sith, and it starts off with Obi-Wan talking about the Clone Wars, and how the Jedi and the Old Republic and all that, and then it started flicking scenes up from Revenge of the Sith, and I was already more excited than probably every 10-year-old in the country, but I couldn't wait to go and see this film, and I went on the midnight showing, probably just like everybody else, and absolutely loved this film. It didn't disappoint in any way. Obviously there's the odd bit of dodgy dialogue like there is with all the prequels, but for me, and I'm probably going to get a lot of tomatoes thrown at me for this, but I hold Revenge of the Sith up there in the same level as the original trilogy. I love it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. It's up there. No argument.
On a given day, you could ask me what are your top 3 favorite Star Wars films, and Revenge of the Sith could knock A New Hope out. That's how much I love this film.
Great movie.
It's the best one of the 3 prequels. Let's put it that way. It was the best one of the prequels. But man, that's a bold statement to say.
It's just how I feel. I mean,
that's fine. I mean,
everybody else.
You guys are forgetting one.
I absolutely love this film. I think I said it to when we were talking about doing this in the group chat. I think this is the film that I probably rewatch more than any other film. This and Return of the Jedi are the 2 that I'll stick on the most, because they're the most fun of the 2 and the most sort of lore heavy of the 2. I just like Return of the Jedi and Empire, when I put Revenge of the Sith on, I still 20 years later notice new things that I've never noticed before. And I think that to me is a true marvel of the Star Wars movies in general, is that even 40 years later we're still finding stuff that we didn't notice.
Can I just say something about that? It's funny because over the recent years we've been so used to Star Wars being on the small screen, on our TVs and so forth, and I hear a lot of people online and so, Star Wars should always be on the big screen, and I've always been like, well, if you want to go to the cinema or not, until I went to see Revenge of the Sith this year for what you've exactly just said. There's so many things I've noticed and the landscape of it and so forth that needs to be on a big screen. You need to see it like that, so I agree with that.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go on. Sorry, John.
Oh, so you guys saying like you went to the midnight show or whatever? Like, how many of you guys went to like all? See, whenever a new Star Wars movie came out, like Phantom Episode, Attack of the Clones, and this. we bought tickets for every single show that first day. Am I the only one that does that?
You're the only one that did that, John.
You're the only one who did that.
Really?
I was at work, John. There's no way I could.
Take the day off of work. That's what I mean. To me, it's a holiday. I took the day off of work, and the next day, so I could sleep because I was going to be up till midnight watching the show.
I was active duty at the time. It would have been AWOL.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
dear.
to me, Star Wars is a holiday. So whenever a new film comes out, I take the day off. I will sit there in the theater from open to close, watch it over and over, every single one of them.
When it comes to the lightsaber battles, you know, you had Anakin against Obi-Wan, then you had Yoda against Palpatine. They looked spectacular. They really did. They were very well choreographed and stuff like that. But do you think with those lightsaber battles, they had as much meaning and sort of like depth as the original trilogy lightsaber battles?
The Count Dooku one did when he fought Obi-Wan, and because that was the first. You've gone from seeing Anakin get his arm cut off in Attack of the Clones, being a young kid, to now a Jedi Knight. And it's that first move he does as he strolls towards. He's just got rid of Obi-Wan and he's underneath the thing. And as Anakin walks up, he's like he proper goes with all the power and straight away that first move where he takes the lightsaber from his back and over his head. And I was like, whoa! Now we're going to see it. Now we're going to see who he's become, if you will. So I that was all. I mean, the fights at the end were awesome. The Yoda and the Emperor, but for lightsaber fights, I always thought the Dooku, Obi-Wan, Anakin.
I forgot about that one.
I'll tell you, his arms off, cuts his head, and then it talks about the Jedi. What would a Jedi do? It's not the Jedi way, but he's so consumed or getting consumed by then. So that's up there for me in the Jedi in the lightsaber fights.
Yeah. What about you? What about you, Si?
For me, I don't. It's weird when we watch the sequels, and they did not go really the way that the vast majority wanted them to go. When the sequels came, I mean, the prequels came out for Star Wars, a lot of people were in that same sort of camp. This isn't my Star Wars. This isn't the same. But I think watching Revenge of the Sith and watching the way it played out, everyone was accepting of what they'd give us. It was a great ending to, if that was going to be it for Star Wars, what a great ending it was going to be. And, you know, there was all that thing about Revenge of the Sith, everything but the kitchen sink, you know, what they said about it, you know, just throw the lot in. And I'll say, you know, that's got probably one of the greatest opening 5 minutes of any cinematic film ever made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you first saw Revenge of the Sith and you saw that drop in space, you saw them two little Jedi starfighters, my arse was blown from ear to Presley. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Do you know what I mean? It just looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best things about Revenge of the Sith is that, I mean, first 10 minutes you get the lightsaber duel. You never had that in Star Wars right at the beginning, lightsaber duel. So then you knew, hang on, if they're putting a lightsaber duel now, what's the ending of this film going to be like? And I just think it kept you on the edge of your seat all the way through it. Was it a masterpiece? No, but I agree with Martyn. There was a lot out at the time, and I think that especially Revenge of the Sith laid quite a lot on Lord of the Rings. The dialogue, the way the wise was put in, that talk between Padme and Anakin's a bit like that about love and that sort of fantasy fable. I do believe that the Lord of the Rings did play quite a part in that, you know.
Yeah.
But again, you could tell it was Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith felt the most of Star Wars from them three. And like I said, what a great ending to bow out the first six. Amazing. You couldn't have asked for better.
Yeah. What about you, Des? What did you think on the lightsaber battles?
I thought that, I mean, there's basically the three lightsaber battles. Like you say, the Dooku with Anakin, initially, and then Yoda and
Palpatine.
And then obviously Darth Vader strike Anakin and Obi-Wan. But it's just how
was it the Grievous fight in this too?
Yes.
Don't forget Palpatine versus Mace Windu.
But it's that one, Martyn. It's that one when there's the four of them go to arrest him, when they just you know, three Jedi Masters just die like punks.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you're not going to have 10 minutes for each death because otherwise the film's going to be sort of 4 hours long. But they did go down a bit weak.
Quick.
My boy Kit Fisto deserved better.
Yeah. But then, you know, with the Order 6, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this later, but Order 66, they all have their own little scene. and it's their little sort of homage, I suppose, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
But that's my only. I don't want to use the word criticism, but that's the only sort of thing that could have been better with the lightsaber battles.
Yeah. What about you, Andy?
No, the lightsaber battles, I would say, are actually, because there's quite a few of them in this film. I think they're some of the best in the whole saga. The Anakin versus Obi-Wan at the end, I mean, that is just exceptional. Yoda versus Palpatine is just amazing. And literally, Palpatine's throwing the Senate at him, figuratively and literally. It's brilliant. But I mean, when you mentioned Grievous earlier as well, that shot where Grievous has got two spinning lightsabers and is dragging on the floor, that's an excellent shot. I mean, I watched the film again this afternoon and I was just blown away by some of the effects, the CGI stuff. It looks excellent. It looks really, really good. And as Martin said as well, the Mace Windu sort of like thing. So I mean, you had like 4 or 5 really decent lightsaber battles in this film, and they were all pretty good. Lightsaber.
I agree.
Yeah. What about you, Sags?
Well, I agree with in many ways. Yeah, I forgot. I mean, the last battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan is spectacular. But in many ways, it is the opening, too. Like Sai said, I love that it cuts right to this starship battle where you've got the big ships side by side, like pirate ships on the water. You know what I mean? There's cannons blasting into each other's sides. And you've got Anakin and Obi-Wan swimming through this sea of bad guys and droids and ships and things. And it was just really cool. And you see those moments like Anakin, like, I got to go back and help Oddball. He's behind me with it. And they're like, they're doing their job so that we can do ours. You know what I mean? Like, and it just shows the difference between how Anakin views at that point in time, how he views the troops under him, where a lot of the Jedi, including Obi-Wan, saw them as disposable.
Mm-hmm.
And Anakin, and they feel that way about droids and stuff too, because you see it where in a lot of times where Obi-Wan's like, just get a new astromech, and Anakin's like, no, I have to go back for R2. You know, you see it more in this, and you see it more in the Clone Wars cartoon, but it just shows that because some people, droids, clones, the troops, these things are disposable, even though they're good guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then when it comes down to it though, and he has that battle with Dooku, I just loved it because though you're right, those moves, like he brings that lightsaber over his shoulder, and then he does that spin. He does some kind of spin move that cuts both hands off Dooku, and Dooku's saber goes up in the air, and Anakin catches it and brings.
He's got down. The red and the blue together.
And it's like it's not the Jedi way. So like in that moment,
well, it's
that guy's not disposable. He needs to face trial for what he did. You know what I mean? Like it's and then he's got the do it. And it, like it pushes him over the edge. You know, it's like but it's brilliant, that whole opening, just like Sai said, and then leading into that battle. It's just incredible. You know.
Yeah. DTM.
Well, I'll not repeat all the lightsaber battles in there, but one standout lightsaber moment for me. There's quite a few of these where Obi-Wan just takes down battle droids like he's done it all his life. There's a bit where the Starfighter comes crashing through, leaps out of the cockpit, and he takes a swing and end of battle droid. I just like people cutting droids up.
Oh dear. What about you, Matt?
Well, as much as I love the battles in this, did any of you guys ever read the novelization of Revenge of the Sith?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've got it up there.
There's things in it that just really like enhance what we see, what you see on the screen. Like there's a part where like in that first battle with where Anakin's fighting Dooku, when it gets to the point where it's just him on, it's just Dooku and Anakin fighting. And like he says, you have hate, you have fear, because I sense fear, you have this, but you don't use them. And then you see the look on Anakin's face. It's like, kind of like a power up kind of look, kind of thing. In the novel, it talks about how Dooku can sense like that.
Hi, Joe.
Anakin's Anakin's way of like drawing on the Force is like just this wellspring. It's just so immense. It's like unlike any other Jedi ever, because he's that powerful. And it really takes him aback. And then when, you know, he goes through and he literally disarms him, and, you know, and then, you know, and then Palpatine's able to give him that push where it's like, you know, just, you know, kill him now. And he's like, no, I shouldn't do that. No, that's not the Jedi way. He's disarmed. He's disabled. You know, that's it. The fight's over. We got him. And, you know, it's the same way in the Kenobi series at the last, where, like, you know, if Obi-Wan were to take that one last step and kill Anakin at that point after he's defeated him, it's now, you know, you're a murderer. That's another step towards darkness. And where, you know, and that's the difference between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan won't take that step. You see that even in the Clone Wars, where like Darth Maul kills the Duchess Satine, who Obi-Wan is very close, very attached to. And, you know, basically, you know, but he doesn't turn to the dark side. He doesn't take the step where Anakin does. I mean, you see that there. Another thing with the novel was kind of you're talking about the fight between Grievous and Obi-Wan. There's a part where, like, you know, because Grievous says, well, I was trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku. And there's a line in the novel. He goes, yeah, my apprentice beat your master. You know, like, just like trash talking that I absolutely love, you know. And then there's one other thing they talk about talking about because Obi-Wan's not very confident that he can beat Grievous, because, I mean, if you look at him in like the Clone Wars and stuff, like especially the Tartakovsky series, Grievous is, I mean, you see him in that he is like he's almost an unstoppable force. He takes out all kinds of people. It's amazing. And so they have him. He's going off to you know, and he's basically going off alone to take on Grievous. And he's like, I'm not sure I can win this. He's talking to Mace Windu, and Mace Windu goes, well, because he's like, look, I only really know like one lightsaber like dueling form and all this other things. And Mace Windu says to him, and this is in the novel, I was like, well, you know, Yoda has a style of fighting that compensates for his stature, for, you know, because he's so small. And he says, I have a type of lightsaber fighting that taps because of my propensity for like being like, because he's kind of like with the purple lightsaber stuff. They always had this thing about Mace Windu was kind of like flirts with the dark side of the Force. And he says, I have that. And he says, but you have, he says to Obi-Wan's like, you have none of those. So he's basically saying that Obi-Wan is like the quintessential Jedi. He is pure balance. And that's like, you know, they talk about like, this is where you get like the will of the Force. This comes from the Phantom Menace, and that's where they really kind of started with
you touched on a point. You touched on a point a little bit ago, and I want to get back onto that point. But to keep the conversation flowing, get Martyn. Martyn, your thoughts on the lightsaber duels?
Yeah, I mean, I love every single one of them. I think there's the Dooku one at the beginning. There's a great moment in it where Anakin's just executed Dooku, and he's questioning what he's done, and he says, "It's not the Jedi way." Well, if you then flash forward to mid-film and Mace Windu's about to execute Palpatine in front of the window, Anakin's obviously at the point of shanty turn, and he shouts to Mace Windu as he's about to bring the lightsaber down on Palpatine, "This is not the Jedi way." And I thought that was quite clever, because they've used the same phrasing twice from the same character, and that's the moment that Anakin realizes that, in his mind anyway, that the Jedi aren't the good guys, because he thought, well, the Jedi don't do that sort of thing. So, you know, we're
trained and not doing it. Yeah,
exactly. But he's in front of Mace Windu, just about to execute his mentor, and, you know, the guy who could save Padme, and he brings that lightsaber down, and that's one of the main reasons that he makes the decision he does, in my mind anyway, because I thought it was really clever writing. I think, you know, there's a lot of crap given to the prequels for the bad dialogue and writing, but that's actually quite a good little nugget, I think personally. But in terms of the other lightsabers, I think Anakin Obi-Wan is just, it's epic. And there's a video online you can watch where someone's got the footage from the guy who did the stunt coordinating. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Nick Gillard, was it?
Yeah, Nick Gillard, yeah. And they've basically recreated the whole fight, and it goes on for like another 15 minutes, this fight, and they had to cut it down. And the fact that it takes place on Mustafar, you know, it's kind of like that hellscape. I know in the original writing of the series, you know, when George Lucas envisioned it all, he'd already thought of a volcanic planet. But I thought perfect setting for it, and the lightsaber fights are amazing. But in cross-cutting to the Yoda Sidious fight, and as Andy said, you know, it's a metaphor for the Republic ending. You know, it's the end of democracy, and then it's shown him throwing the Senate pods at Yoda. I mean, and then of course you've got the Duel of the Fates from the Phantom Menace playing at the same time as that's going on. It's just an absolutely epic moment, and in my opinion, the best lightsaber duel in all of the films, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about this until literally just now when Shabby said about that Dooku fight. As spectacular as those fights were between Vader and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Palpatine, you knew what was going to happen. There was nothing riding on it really, because you knew that the Emperor was going to survive. You knew that Anakin was going to survive. That first fight scene with Dooku and Anakin, you didn't know what was going to happen there. You didn't know whether he was going to, you know, finish him off or not. And for me, I think that's the most powerful of the fights within Revenge of the Sith, because that's the moment where he is starting to get manipulated. I mean, I know Palpatine's manipulated him all the way through like episode 2, and then you see it all the way through the Clone Wars. But for me, that was the moment where that manipulation has really sort of like set in, and he's like, you know, and like Martyn said, it's not the Jedi way.
Thing is, as well, it's not like, sorry, Stu, it's not like he just stabs him; he cuts his bloody head off.
Yeah,
you know, it's quite a macabre sort of death, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, why did he not resist, and why do you think that he did that at that moment in time? Because he knew it was wrong. But why do you think that he did that? And
I think he was trained too old. You know, when Yoda turns around and says he's too old. But I think it is. I think by the time he got to age 10 or whatever, and you could see the graduation of it, how kind he was, how happy he was. And then you see more in like I said, when he gets to his teenage years, most of the rebellion is over the fact that he wasn't, in a way, brainwashed from the Jedi since he was a baby. He knows another way. He knows a different way to think. But one of you, John, said something that was really important before that I never thought of. And he talks to him, Yoda talks to him about attachment, but it wasn't just attachment to Padme, attachment to droids, attachment to creatures, attachment. You know, he had a soft side for a lot of people. And Martyn made a really good point when he said the two sides of it's not the Jedi way, the two sides, that sentence was used. And I think it's because he was older and he wasn't at the Jedi since he was a baby. He does know different. He has a different way of thinking. So I think that's why he was so easily consumed. So yeah, it was a good point, boys.
I agree, and I think in the movie as well, he says, you know, we can end this war by killing Grievous, and I think that's Palpatine in the background again saying, you know, we need to end this war and get the Republic back to how it is, and his killing Dooku in his mind probably, as Palpatine says, he's too dangerous to be kept alive. Yeah, you know, he thinks by killing Dooku he can end the war and everything can go back to normal and he can live the life that he wants to live. And it's all the manipulation of Palpatine the whole way through.
Yeah, I thought it was a Palpatine thing, because if you listen whenever they use the Force, there's a sound in Star Wars. There's a woo kind of thing, and when Palpatine is sitting in that chair, when Chancellor Palpatine is sitting in that chair, his face goes to the Emperor, and he goes, "Do it," and he goes, "Do it," as the Emperor, and that, and you hear that Force push sound, you hear that woof as he's saying that, and I always thought that there was a slight dark side push that he pushed Anakin's mind just a tiny bit.
Like he can't, because he's not a weak-minded person. I mean, I understand what you're getting at. He tries to do that, but you look at, you know, something that Shabby talked about, how he about thinking Anakin being too old
at that moment.
Right, but Anakin, he plays on it a lot. And Palpatine's a master manipulator. I mean, you see that through the entire saga. But the go back to what Shabby was talking about, how like the Jedi, how Anakin was different because, you know, how Yoda had said he was too old to be trained. And at the end of Phantom Menace, Yoda's the only one that disagrees with the Council about letting Anakin be Obi-Wan's apprentice. But the thing is I mean, you go back to when Palpatine's talking to to Anakin in his office about, like, you know, when Anakin figures out he's a Sith Lord, but he says, you know, he talks about how, like, you can't just use the dogmatic view of the Jedi. And I mean, this is a big issue with Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was kind of a maverick Jedi, because the Jedi Order they're very complacent. That, you know, their complacency led to all of this happening. I mean, you know, in a later film that shan't be named, it's mentioned that at the height of their power, they let Darth Sidious to take power and take them out. But
I saw that film.
You know, so I mean, but it literally happens. It was they're so dogmatic and they're so rigid and everything else that it really does kind of change. That's why, like, later on, where you don't see Obi-Wan just training Anakin as a baby, he lets him grow up and leaves it to the will of the Force. Yeah, there was that change.
You say Anakin was too old to start training. What does that make Luke then?
Well, that was at the end. That was a change that they realized. I mean, Yoda and Obi-Wan, they realized that he needs to be a kid. We've got to change how we do things, because otherwise they're just going to be back to, you know, it's rinse, you know, rinse and repeat. It's just
to be fair,
though, change.
Luke didn't have the same sort of influences that sort of like Anakin did.
True.
He had an aunt and uncle and blue milk.
Yeah.
Whereas Anakin sort of like
I believe there was blue milk on the table in Phantom Menace.
But but Palpatine had been manipulating and gaslighting Anakin for years. I mean, that initial duel. He said, remember what you told me about your mother and Sand people. So Palpatine has been basically reinforcing a lot of sort of like Anakin's thoughts. And it's okay to sort of like to do this.
You cut off your arm and you want revenge.
But you see through that too is, like, also that, you know, Anakin is confided in Palpatine things that he didn't even tell Obi-Wan. I mean, I don't think you never hear him talk about how the same people killed his mother from Obi-Wan. It's, I mean,
do you not think? Can I ask you a question? Do you not think he was manipulated by both? I always had that thing, because he was.
Well, he was being trained by Obi-Wan, not manipulated. I mean,
I look at it a different way, and I think that's why he was so conflicted by the end of it. It's easy to say that Palpatine was always in his ear, but so were the Jedi. The Jedi were always in his ear too, so you're getting the good side of it. And exactly, constantly. Do you think they would have done that much if he wasn't the chosen one?
But I mean, but the thing was with the Jedi. I mean, he was being trained as a Jedi. I mean, it was understood. I mean, Palpatine is getting at him. He's basically seducing him to the dark side. He's subverting what he's learning from the Jedi.
Shabby has made a good point there, because in one of the episodes of Clone Wars, when they fake Obi-Wan's death, they didn't let Anakin know about it. And it was after that episode that he started questioning the morals of the Jedi, because, you know, they've not told me about this. What else haven't they told me about, sort of thing. And then on top of that, with Palpatine whispering in his ear and stuff like that, then he starts to become, you know, a bit disgruntled and disillusioned with the Jedi Order. But I just want to go back.
That's because Yoda, he was always like wary of him from the very beginning. Even when he was a kid, he was so wary of him all the time. I can't see your future. It's all cloudy around you. So maybe the way that the Jedi were with him is because basically Yoda said to probably all the masters, watch him, keep your eye on him. I can't suss him out. I can't read him. I don't know what he's all about. And obviously, because of the prophecy going one way or the other, I think that Anakin was a lot more watched over with a bit like how Harry Potter was at Hogwarts. Do you know what I mean? That sort of, how did he survive Voldemort? And they all got their eye on him. They all liked him and stuff, but they were all wary of him. And I think that was Anakin's journey through the Jedi ranks, you know, watch him, we don't know who he is yet. And they were right to do so.
Well, it's then perhaps what Marty was saying. They've been telling him constantly it's not the Jedi way, not the Jedi. Also, one of the main Jedi Knights on the High Council does it. So he straight away turned around and said, but this isn't the Jedi way. You know, it's like a form of manipulation constantly.
I think if Anakin had come in 10 minutes earlier, it would have been a different story. I think the fact that he walked in and Palpatine was always he had no weapon from what he saw. He was just being attacked. It looked like he was being attacked. So I'm not sure. I kind of although I agree with Matt that the Jedi were dogmatic and, you know, set in their ways, and they were the main responsibility for the Republic falling. I do feel that the Jedi would have tried to train Anakin in a good way. I don't think that. I think the council, like Shabby said, are suspicious of him. Perhaps
I would say the Jedi. I would say Qui-Gon. It's like what Dave Filoni said about the Duel of the Fates in the Phantom Menace. It's that duel is about the fate of Anakin Skywalker. If Qui-Gon survives that and he becomes Anakin's teacher, then Anakin. I think it turns out very differently. I mean, it's like it's. He doesn't. I don't think he would fall to the dark side.
Would Anakin have fallen? Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that, because the Emperor just says a few times it's your destiny, doesn't he? He says it's your destiny. Your destiny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has a destiny, but I think it would have played out a lot differently. It may not have been he falls to the dark side and comes back, or but I think a lot of it. If you look at Attack of the Clones, I mean, Obi-Wan is Obi-Wan's like my favorite character through the entire saga, and in that movie he is very sophomoric. It's almost like the only teaching he does is kind of like putting Anakin down. It's like he's just pointing out all his mistakes, like, oh, you lost your lightsaber. He says you got to keep this thing with you, and it's like you're going to be the death of me and all this other stuff. And it's you're like when they come to even when they're at like they're in Geonosis and he sees them and he's like, well, I was wondering if you got my message. Yeah, we sent it just like you said, and then we decided to come and rescue. And he's like sitting there chained up and looking, yeah, good job. Kind of thing.
I just want to go back to a point, Matt, that you made earlier. You said that Anakin, Obi-Wan could have finished Anakin off, but because he was unarmed, but he would have become a murderer if he'd have done that. Why then was it different when Mace Windu went to strike down Palpatine, because Palpatine was unarmed? So what's the difference there between Obi-Wan doing it to Anakin and finishing him off, and then because do you know what I mean?
No, I see what you mean, and the thing was at that point was if you listen to what Mace Windu was saying, and I'm not saying he was right either, but at the point it was like you're seeing Mace Windu during this whole thing has been having, I'm sensing the end of the Jedi here. He wants to preserve the Jedi, and it's like, this could be the end, and it's like, but if I stop him here, then we stop this.
Yeah. Because
at that point he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't have an apprentice because Dooku was killed earlier in the film. And so it's like if we stop him now, we end this. And it's almost like that. If I just do this one bad thing, it's like I said before, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Anakin's doing all these things to save Padme. I mean, he's desperate to save her.
And also, I think as well, just quickly, Obi-Wan walks away thinking Anakin's gonna die anyway. He has no inclination that he's going to live through it, because when you get, I know we're here to talk about Revenge.
I'm talking about in the Kenobi series.
Okay. I thought you were talking about.
But even there, he leaves it to the. I mean, even in this movie, when he walks away, he leaves it to the will of the Force. I'm done. But you're right. But no,
the difference is, why is it okay for? Why is is it okay for Mace Windu to write down? What's the difference? Is what I'm asking. Yeah, don't worry about what happened in like other series and stuff like that. We're talking about
the thing is, though, you're saying that Palpatine was unarmed because he lost his lightsaber. Palpatine was not unarmed.
A few seconds later,
I think it's very different.
4th of July.
Why do you think it's different, Martin?
Well, I mean, Mace Windu's just been through the battle of his life, realized that 3 of his Jedi Council members have just been taken out. He knows that he says the Sith will never return. Blah blah blah. So he knows how important it is to kill Palpatine at that moment and destroy the Sith, because as Matt said, that's both the Sith Lords gone. The difference between and when you come to Obi-Wan standing over the lava pit is Anakin's just been burst into flames. He's breathing flames into his lungs. He's literally he's got 3 limbs taken out and one of them's false. He literally walks away, sad, that his brother's about to die. Why let him suffer his last few minutes of in pain, because that's what he always wanted, and walks away. So I think it is very much different. I see where you're going, but I think it's a very different situation.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too is Mace Windu does say, like, he's got control of the Senate, he's got control of the courts. We can't put him on trial. I get where he's at. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I understand. It's kind of like in Star Wars. It's like when Darth Vader starts choking out coworkers at a board meeting. I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying
also the will of the Force might have been telling Obi-Wan not to kill him because he knew that he was the chosen one.
Well, that too. I mean, he is.
Staying with Palpatine, that scene in the Senate, in the theater, or wherever it was they were, that scene when he did his speech, what were your thoughts on that, DTM?
That was one of my favourite parts of the film, to be honest. I liked how he kept on chopping it in between Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight as well.
No. The scene where they're watching at the theater, and he's saying about,
the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a bit of talking, wasn't it? It's not what you want to see. Just move on. We want to see him finish.
That was so in scenes. That was
the big bubbles, do you? Just tell him. The big bubbles. Stick with me, kid.
Stick with me. I'll show you ropes. I'll show you dark side ropes. Yeah.
What about you, Des? What did you think of that scene?
Yeah.
Obviously, Deacon weren't impressed.
Well, it's just another bit of that manipulation of nice quotes. Leave us. So it's just the two of them, and he's just telling him a little snippet that it's the how do I put it? I'm basically, look, no one's listening. I'm a Sith. You know what I mean? He's sort of telling him without telling him, and he just falls for it. This is how you can save it. Save Padme. I know how to do it. Trust me. Stick with me, kid, and we'll sort it.
Yeah. What about you, Si? You enjoy that scene?
I think that's one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars. I absolutely love it. When the stuff he says to him and how he gets around him, because he's saying things to him that are that powerful. Not once does Anakin say, "Hang on a minute, how the fuck do you fucking know?" He doesn't say that to him because he knows. And I think Anakin looks at him as if to say, "You're not who I thought you were, but how do you know all this?" Do you know what I mean? And he intrigues him more than anything. He's saying to his wife from the very beginning, "You're going to die, and I know it. I'm getting visions of it. It's worrying me sick." So for him to come out with that, for him to not even pull him on how he knows or anything, shows the power of what he was actually saying.
Yeah.
Is it possible to learn his power? Not from a Jedi. It's absolutely brilliant, that scene, isn't it? I love it. It's not just talking, Dave. Cinematic history.
Oh, dear. What about you, Delvian?
Yeah, I did enjoy the scene. It's but I mean, I'm the same as Des. There's a little part of me that's just, we're on the lookout for a mysterious Sith Lord, and all of a sudden it's like the Chancellor starts talking about all this like hidden Sith lore, and you're sort of like, God, even Scooby Doo probably could have worked it out. It's just but I mean, it is a great scene. It is good dialogue. It is very sort of like, Ian McDermott, he's a great actor. He really sells that sort of like that whole moment. But it is a good scene.
Yeah. What about you, Sags?
Oh yeah, I've always liked that part. Like whenever I'm watching the film and Anakin comes in to sit down there, it's like my anticipation of that dialogue is always there, because I love how it starts out too, where he's like, they told you to do something that's against your, sensibilities. They told you to spy on me, didn't they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like it. It's not just the dark side stuff that he talks about in the Plagueis lore. It's that also, and you can see the, like the Jedi have asked you to do something you feel uncomfortable with, haven't they? And then he's like, they've asked you to spy on me, haven't they?
Yeah, so he's sowing doubt into his mind again, isn't he? He's sowing doubt.
Yeah,
into his
it's
mind
getting
again,
into his mind because he's like, you're asking me to do something against a friend and a mentor, someone who's only been nice to him the whole time.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what's wrong here, when he's talking to Obi-Wan about it. And it's like, and it's like, yeah, I mean, and maybe that goes back to the thing of, was Anakin too old? Because by the time he started training as a Jedi, he had in his mind the right and wrong. Like, this is what's right and wrong. It was set in stone at that age. And yeah, in a way, it's like what the Jedi's asking him to do is wrong, Yeah,
but you say what the Jedi are asking him to do is wrong, but then it's wrong. Palpatine telling him to kill Dooku. Do you know what I mean? But he still does it.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? Do you know?
Yeah.
I mean?
You're right.
What do you think of that scene?
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Palpatine always saw that this was like going back to Matt, what you said before about if Qui-Gon Jinn hadn't have died, would we have seen it differently? I always got the impression especially from Anakin, the way that Palpatine spoke to him, that this is who you're going to become. There's no choice. There's no well. This is what happens. The Force chooses a side for you. You can fight against that all you want. This is actually who you're going to become. So basically, you can either listen to me, listen to what's going to happen, and I'll train you along with it, or you can lose all that power, lose all that everything, and you'll probably end up dying because of it. And I think, going looking at Anakin's story, I do believe in that destiny side of it, that he was always going to be Darth Vader, that no matter what was going to happen, this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think that the Emperor played a way really in that fathership of him, because like you knew that when it got, especially to like Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, that he had a relationship since the Phantom Menace. At the end, where he says, "I'll be watching you," you knew that since then, he was, like you said, John, he's a father figure to him. Probably spent time with him, took him out and stuff, and took him away from the Jedi in the school and all that and everything a lot.
Yeah.
So I do think he was off for the turn of him, but I just generally believe that was going to be Anakin anyway. No matter what, he was going to be Darth Vader.
Well, think about the
saying that
Mortis
because of the midichlorians that he had and the way he was conceived, and it was.
It's just that it was always, it's like spoke from the beginning of the fable, like for the Sith. I think in a way of the Jedi, where it was always talked about the chosen one and the prophecy, and Luke being the number one Jedi at the time. I believe that for the Sith as well. I think the Sith needed that. I think they had to have their ultimate, their Sith, their number one. Yeah. And with it being Anakin, who actually come from being a Jedi, I think it showed more of a Sith in him, because Siths to me have always been more fascinating when they used to be Jedi. They're always the most fascinating ones, because it's like, what turned you then? Because we know what Jedi believe in, so what actually did turn you? And I just think Anakin, like from the beginning, just got knock after knock after knock. And then, like John just said, then when he got to Revenge of the Sith, and they're asking him to do things he doesn't really want to do against somebody he loves. Do you know what I mean? And it all broke out from there. But I do believe
have
it was
one other
destiny.
question, if I may, real quick.
Sure.
And if you want to hit this later, and after you go through people, we can come back to it. But do you think we should have seen that it was Anakin who crawled out of the lava? Like, if you go back to the original book, the Tales of Luke's, was it Luke Starkiller or Luke Skywalker? Taken from the Journals of the Wills. It's a long-winded title. And it's in that first prelude chapter of the book, it's like chapter 0, whatever you want to call it, before the book starts, they have like a pre-chapter.
Yeah, prologue.
Prologue, is that what they call it or whatever? Prologue or whatever. And they say in there that Palpatine was witnessing a battle between Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan, and this dark Jedi. And in the battle, Anakin turned because he wanted that dark Jedi, the Sith guy, to face trial. And during the fight, both of them fell into the lava. And they were both fighting against Obi-Wan by the end of the battle. And Obi-Wan defeated them both. They both fell in the lava. And Obi-Wan picks up Luke's lightsaber, or the Anakin lightsaber, and walks away. And then Palpatine comes out of the shadows, and he says, if you give yourself fully to the dark side, I can save your life. And a hand comes out, and he pulls him out of the lava. But you don't know which hand it was. Was it the Sith, or was it Anakin? Was it the Sith in training, or was it Anakin? And then in Empire Strikes Back, when they reveal that it was actually Anakin, you still got that power. I think the movie takes away the power from Empire Strikes Back by showing us clearly it's Anakin Skywalker because there was no other option. Like, I've always wondered how people feel about that, like taking away that moment in Empire Strikes Back that meant so much to all of us when we were kids and saw that for the first time. You know?
I didn't read the book, so I was totally oblivious to it. So it made no difference to me. Thanks.
No.
But even without reading the book,
Yeah.
even without reading the book, were you upset that he took away that thing for future generations to watch? And
we didn't know about it. People that didn't
No,
read
I
that
always
book,
knew that. Is it just me? But ever since we were kids, we always knew that Anakin died on a lava planet, on a planet that was full of fire, and they were fighting on a lava planet. And I had that in my head.
We knew it. That's basically how we knew it, because it was mentioned in that book, and people kept talking about it in interviews and other things. It was in Bantha Tracks. It was mentioned all over the place in interviews and articles. But what I'm saying is, even without knowing about the book and knowing about stuff, just watching the Revenge of the Sith alone, like, don't you think that knowing that it's having that movie reveal that Anakin becomes Darth Vader, don't you think it takes away something from Empire Strikes Back for future generations?
Not if you watch them in the right order. You start with Star Wars, then you watch Empire Strikes Back, then you watch the prequels, and then you go to Return of the Jedi.
The thing is, Sags, with that, you've got the original trilogy that was out in the 70s, 77, and then 80 and 83. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it would do, but
because after we die, after we're old enough and we die, and future generations, they're gonna watch it 1 through 6. They're not gonna go 3 or 4 through 6 and then go back and watch 1 to 3.
No.
You know what I mean?
I'm
not going to worry too much about it. I'm not going to be here. So.
Yeah.
Well, I can see where you're coming from, because it does take away that, but it does take away that. Oh wow, that's his. You know, that's his father's top thing. It takes away that reveal, but
it's so ingrained in pop culture, though. I'd be very surprised if anybody sat down and watched Star Wars for the first time and didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Yeah. I remember watching a YouTube video of this dad watching Empire Strikes Back with his son, and his son already knew that Anakin, that Darth Vader was his father, because he got it from a colouring book. And then they cut to the scene of the father literally throwing the colouring book on a fire and covering it in petrol.
Oh dear. No, I see what you mean, but like Martin said, it's so ingrained now, isn't it? Let's just talk about the John Williams score for episode 3, because I think that's probably one of the better scores. I mean, you've got the Battle of the Heroes, then you've got the Duel of Fates mixed in as well. I mean, 2 absolute stunning pieces of music. I mean, what's your take on the music, Dave? And was you happy with the music, or is it just like that conversation that Palpatine had?
Well, you can't go wrong with John Williams, can you? No matter what he does. Well, I think this is his best Star Wars soundtrack, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
There's a piece of music that's played during Order 66. It's probably got a title. I don't know what it's called, but that bit of music where all the Jedi they're getting offed. It's brilliant.
That's quite emotional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is emotional. Yeah.
Did you feel yourself welling up, Dave, when you first watched it? You did.
Yeah. Well up anything, mate.
What about you? Where should we go to? Si, what do you think about the music for episode 3?
Brilliant. But all Star Wars movies, brilliant music. Really, to be fair, it was just a continuation for me. Even in the new ones, the music's, you can't knock it, can you? It's John Williams, you know.
Yeah. You can knock it. You can't.
You can't knock it, not really. It's like I said, you know, he's the sort of guy that, you know, if his name's on the soundtrack, you know for a fact you're going to get one hell of a movie soundtrack. You are, you know. So, I can't pick out specific songs for it. I understand what you're saying about, you know, different scenes and stuff with different titles, but John Williams doing Star Wars, it's all fantastic, isn't it?
What about you, Shabs? What do you think of?
I've said it on the other Star Wars streams that we've done. John Williams' music is a character in Star Wars. It's as big as Han. It's as big as Luke. It's as big as Chewbacca, Darth Vader. I mean, without that music, You know, for everything from Binary Sunset to Jewel of the Fates and in between, it adds to the scenes, it adds to your emotions. That part that DTM just said as well about remember, we're so invested in Star Wars by the time Revenge of the Sith comes, you don't even know who these Jedi are, but you are emotional. You're like, oh no, what's going on? And you know what I mean? Aayla Secura getting killed on that planet, Plo Koon getting, and it's the music that brings that emotion out of you. You know, it's John Williams. I think we all underestimate sometimes. We all say how good it is, but we underestimate how important John Williams' music is in Star Wars.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely. What about you, Delvian?
No, the same. I like the way sort of like towards the end of Revenge of the Sith, he starts bringing in some of the original trilogy sort of like motifs in the soundtrack.
Yeah,
and to me, the very end, the last shot where they're standing on Tatooine looking at and Binary Sunset sort of comes on. The music more than the visual imagery links the end of that film to Star Wars, sort of like more than anything, actually. In some ways, it's because there's just so many themes, and it's even like Leia's theme comes in when they're on Alderaan. It's sort of like at the end, it starts to sort of it's like it's the end of one era, and it's sort of leading into the sort of like the original trilogy era.
Yeah. What about you, Des?
Yeah, exactly what the guys have been saying. You know, it fits John Williams and Star Wars. It's hand in glove, isn't it? You know, it just sort of fits. You take it away, and it's just a different movie. But it's subtly just there constantly. Beautiful, just beautiful stuff. And I know Martyn listens to a lot of, it said before, of sort of classical music, and it's classical music, but it's there, isn't it? It's always in our minds, you know, all the themes, all the you know, like I say, from the Binary Sunsets, Leia's theme, and everything. It's just, you know, beautifully done.
What about you, Sags? Did you enjoy that soundtrack?
Yeah, I always have, and again, I think it's got to be that it's John Williams, because like if you get a chance and you go, I know some of you guys have gone, and you see a John Williams concert, like you will be in tears the whole time. Like when a Star Wars theme or something comes, like you know, Duel of the Fates, or like the main Star Wars theme, Leia's theme, the Anakin stuff, you know, when that comes up, I don't know, the emotion just wells up in me. And it really does it too when I hear the Superman theme. Like when I was sitting there in concert and I heard the Superman theme start up, like for some reason, more than any other composer, the John Williams music just makes me cry. I mean,
it's like ET at the end. If you take away that music, it's just some weird alien going to space. It's that music that makes you cry.
Right,
you know what I mean?
But it's the emotion it draws forth is just so overwhelming. Like it's just something else. And it continues in this. Yeah, Indiana Jones, Scuba's right.
Exactly. Without the music, half of Jaws is just water.
Yeah.
I was just watching Jaws today, and you hear the music, like not just the but like there's a part when they're just out on the boat going after the shark, and the shark's chasing or they're chasing after the shark, and it's just, I mean, it's quintessential John Williams music, and it's just, you know, it's like, you know, that it's got that DNA, I guess, for lack of a better term.
As for Star Wars, definitely has.
Even
when we think about it though, lads, when we think of a scene, the music's in our head as well as that scene.
Exactly.
The music's actually in there, you know, and you know, so.
Well, for me, going back to other certain things, it does carry on, because like, my client's a bit younger than me, and all the 30-year-olds for something, they just love Harry Potter. It's their Star Wars. They love it. Well, you know, Claire's 37 and she loves Harry Potter. But again, that's that John Williams soundtrack throughout all the Potter films throughout. Yes. You know, so this next generation as well loves John Williams soundtracks, and everything they talk about Harry Potter, 9 times out of 10, it's that music that gives it that sort of thing, you know, to bring them in.
That is definitely another theme that gets you. Yeah, when you hear that theme, it is.
I just want to apologise to the chat. I've not really caught up with the chat, so I do apologise, guys. So thank you for having your little chit chats and stuff like that.
Martyn, was it you that just recently got to see him?
Sorry,
was it you that just recently who got to see him just recently?
Who?
See who?
A John Williams concert, wasn't?
Oh yeah.
Stu and I went, and Georgie and Steph.
That's right. Yeah.
amazing,
Did you
yeah.
guys feel the same way when you were in the theater, in the seats watching it play? Did you get did tears come in?
I cried when E.T.'s theme was playing.
Yeah,
I had to whisper to Steph to pass me the tissues without any showing anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't even like E.T.
You should have seen him
I'm not a
sitting there.
big fan of the
His
movie.
hand was like that. Georgie was welling up.
Hang on a minute. His hand was like that, and he said, "Pass me the tissues." There's something what sort of meeting was this?
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Where on earth did you two go?
Well, there you are. But the thing is, it's funny you say that about John Williams, because the other conductor that they were taking music from was Hans Zimmer, and now he's a great conductor in his own right.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But when you listen to Hans Zimmer music, then you listen to John Williams music. The John Williams music always seems to resonate more than what Hans Zimmer does. I don't know whether that's because we've grown up with John Williams' soundtracks and stuff like that. But for me, I enjoyed the John Williams soundtracks more than I did the Hans Zimmer. It's just mad. I mean,
what you're used to. You're used to that more, aren't you? Really? I mean, saying that I'm not going to get down to Schindler's List, and that was John Williams. Do you see what I mean? But I think what it is we're all pop culture enthusiasts, so I think that's going to hit us more than say the music from Titanic. Even though they're great epic movies and the soundtracks are amazing, it's not what we grew up listening. You know what I mean? It's not.
This is true. Yeah,
infected us like Star Wars did, Indiana Jones did, Jaws did, that kind of thing.
I mean, Martin? I mean, I know we know you like the music and stuff like that. I mean, so what was your thoughts on episode 3?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the best John Williams soundtrack by miles for Star Wars. If it starts off with that bombastic drum music for the battle over Coruscant, and then you can he almost weaves the orchestra in with the ship sound effects. It's so incredibly done.
Yeah.
But the thing I love the most about Revenge of the Sith is once you get past that initial battle at the beginning and they're back on Coruscant and the story starts to take off, there's this eerie, subtle music playing that makes you feel like something's going to happen. Something's behind the scenes is going to happen. Something dark is happening. And it's really, really clever. I'm sure you've all noticed it, but if you haven't, when you watch it next, just concentrate on the music, because the whole way up until Anakin turning to become Darth Vader, there's this real emphasis on this. There's something happening in the background. There's this evil spirit somewhere in the galaxy, and it's really, really cleverly done. And then he finishes off the film with the most operatic Battle of the Heroes score, mixed in with Duel of the Fates, where you've got the fate of the galaxy. Literally, the fate of the galaxy is taking place between the two lightsaber battles you're seeing at the end of the movie, and then, as Andy said, right at the end, you've got the melancholic, sad music, but with a hint of hope from the original trilogy in there. And I think he put together an absolute masterful soundtrack there. And I love all of the John Williams soundtracks, but for me, this one, he's really told a story with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of choral music in this soundtrack, much more than any other Star Wars film. There's a lot, especially sort of like the fights at the end, but John Williams tends not to use that many sort of human vocals in a lot of his soundtracks, but in this one, there's a lot.
That's a lot of getting used to, really, after the original trilogy music.
Would you say, Delvian, that's to give it?
There's a little bit in Return of the Jedi.
That's to give the Force more of because I used to think that all the choruses and so forth and the choir scene. Would you say that was to give it more of a in a hint of religion to what is it? To give it more of an old school kind of.
That's not a bad shout.
It does seem to be when it's more ethereal. The only other times I can think of sort of when they used choral music in the original trilogy was the original Return of the Jedi ending, when it was the end of the Yub Nub.
Luke Vader on the Death Star.
When they play in the very low tone music, you can hear an orchestra, and it's. I mean, they're not saying where it's not like they're using Sanskrit like they do in Duel of the Fates. It's just more this.
But even in the theater part when he's talking, you can hear that. There's an
exactly. And it just really is. I mean,
there's that really lovely song. Well, not song, but there's that really good bit of music where Anakin's in the Jedi temple and Padme's in the apartment, and they're both peering across the city, and it's just really subtle, but it's an amazing piece of music. Yeah, fantastic sound.
Oh, was that when Anakin and Padme were staring out the windows?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, part of that's done rewound, isn't it? The part when he looks through the thing, it's actually the tape running back. It's not forward. If you actually, I watched the documentary on it, and there's a part where Anakin's got a tear running, and he looks through, but it's actually rewound, just like they did with the Sand People. At the, that's going backwards. So
the tear gets sucked back into his eye.
I don't know. It's weird how they've done it. It's like if you actually watch it, you can actually tell as well. Once you've told, it stands out a lot.
I know that. I know they did that with like Mustafar. They had something going. It was like they had to play it backwards because of the way the lava was flowing. It was wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
And they film. You see that they play it in reverse, but. Yeah, I don't know about that. I didn't know about that with that scene. I have to rewatch it.
Yeah. Can I just say as well? I didn't get a chance to say about Palpatine and the manipulation of Anakin. Do you think it's because basically ever since he was a little boy, all Palpatine did was tell Anakin everything he wants to know, everything he wants to hear? Oh, you're on the Jedi Council. Oh, I believe in you. Oh, I can say, but it was always something that he wanted to hear. He never disagreed with him. Yeah. So, he could have said, I'm going to open an ice cream shop. And Palpatine would have gone, you'd be the best ice cream maker.
Well, it was part of the manipulation. I mean, you've been manipulating him since he was 10 years old. I mean, it's like once he starts, we'll watch your career with great interest. He knows.
But that's my point, you see, because it comes across as the dark side. But all Palpatine did was come at Anakin through love, through like a father figure.
That's how the devil works.
Arm around his shoulder. Brilliant.
Take away
what you want to hear. I mean,
take away the Clone Wars, all the episodes for the Clone Wars, and all that sort of like added manipulation of Palpatine and Anakin. With the actual film itself, do you think there was enough in it for him to have turned? Because don't forget, by the time Revenge of the Sith had come out, we didn't have the Clone Wars, so we just had what we had. Do you think there was enough in that film or the course of those films to suggest that he turned to the dark side, or do you think it was done too quickly?
No, I think it was. It works.
Yeah, I do.
It works.
He thinks his wife's going to die.
Wife and child, yeah. He thinks he's going to use his wife and child.
I'm going to do anything, which I think anybody would do. I'll do anything I can to save them. So
yeah. You're not really thinking straight by then, are you, Des? It's like this is what you want to do, regardless of if to save him, you'll do whatever it takes. So I agree with that, Des. Yeah.
It does feel a little quick, but you also get the feeling that there was more behind the scenes than what we were seeing, and that happens in every Star Wars movie. There was always things behind the scenes that we just didn't get to see, and that's what made us all discuss it and everything. The part that I always got weird was I didn't feel there was enough between Anakin and Padme to make me believe they fell in love. Like if you watch a romantic comedy or a romantic drama, romantic Christmas film or something, you always end up believing that those characters in that Hallmark film fell in love. You know what I mean? You're kind of falling in love with them while you're watching the film.
You big softy, John. You big softy,
weirdo.
But this set of films, I never really believed that Padme and Anakin were falling in love. It just didn't. There wasn't enough.
Well, I mean, you look at it. Look at the night when she says they can't be together, and look at the outfit she's wearing. Exactly. And I'm talking about mixed signals. My God.
Yeah.
So with the I mean, I love the Robot Chicken episodes. It's the Robot Chicken of that particular scene. When she's having she's almost like a pole dancer, and it's
Alps has made a good point here. Mace didn't help the situation by mistrusting him so much. Do you think that's the problem where the Jedi didn't trust Anakin?
Yeah, I think that's all goes from Yoda.
When it plays in hands, doesn't it? Yeah. And Kieran asked a question earlier as well. He was saying, do you think that episode 1 should have been done in the 80s?
No, I think I was fine with.
No. Yeah. I think we all knew that as well because George Lucas said it himself, didn't he? He brought it back at a time that he could. His vision could be seen because of the CGI graphics we had today.
Yeah, because it was when he saw Jurassic Park when he realized the technology was there. Because he wanted aliens that didn't look like people in masks. Yeah. And that's what you get with the Gungans and Jar Jar Binks, they don't. It doesn't. You can't put a person in a mask and make them look like that, or like Sebulba, the Dugs, or even like Biden Carter. You couldn't make aliens like that unless even if you look at like the original release of Phantom Menace and Yoda was the puppet, it was the most god awful looking puppet I ever saw. Yeah. I mean, the one in Empire looks 1,000 times better. So when they went back and redid it and made him the Yoda CGI in that, I think they did. I think they actually helped the film out.
I think that's one thing you can say about the sequel, the prequels is, regardless of whether you liked them or not, because I know I've always loved them. The story was there. And so none of us can come away thinking that there's no story to the. There was again the same as the main trilogy: a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we got that in these prequels.
Can I ask a question?
You can, yes.
There's a lot of shut up, Si. There's a lot of deleted scenes in this film. Do you think they were right to delete them? Or should some of them have gone back in? Because actually there's a lot of scenes around sort of like the start of the rebellion and
with Mon Mothma and Bail
exactly. All completely gone.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, they did take a lot of that out, and it was for time. I would love to see, like, there's a rumor out there that there's like a 4-hour cut of this movie with all of that. So I would please put that on Disney Plus.
I personally would love to see it I mean, I don't think you should do what Star Wars and Empire and Jedi, where they completely get rid of the originals. Leave the original prequel trilogy up there, but give us a special edition of all 3 films. I would be all for it, because I personally think the second one especially needs a graphic update. Some of that doesn't hold up.
Especially when HD TVs came up, because Yoda looks like he's been put on your TV, doesn't it? Doesn't sit right.
The backgrounds, some of those backgrounds don't match. It's not every scene, it's not the whole film, but there's certain spots where I'm just like, that background I can really tell is flat and CG and weird.
Well, but then again, I got to meet Bonnie Pulesi. She plays Beru in the prequels, and I asked her, I was like, so did they go through and film that last scene when you guys were in Tunisia? When you were filming episode 2? She goes, "Oh no, they brought us back. That was all green screen."
Wow.
They originally filmed it in the desert.
They didn't. They didn't film it in the. They didn't. They
did, Matt. They filmed it originally when he did episode 2, because if you watch the documentary, George Lucas says, "Oh, I filmed a scene at the homestead," and everyone asked him, "What is it?" And he said, "I can't tell you because it's a scene for episode 3."
Yeah, but Bonnie Pulesi just flat out said that didn't happen. And she's one of the actresses in there. But the scene you see in Return of the Jedi, that's pure green screen.
Have a fight.
No, I'm just telling you what George told me. And I want to go back and see that documentary again.
I don't care enough.
We change the tone, the course of the conversation. Are you happy with what you saw with episode 3, or are there things that you would have changed about it? We'll start with Delvian. Is there anything that you would have changed about episode 3?
No, actually. No, because I think this is sort of like this is George Lucas's vision on how to end it. It led up sort of like quite nicely. I think some of the earlier points were at the beginning of the stream about having a bit more of Vader, and actually sort of. I'm not talking about him hunting down the remaining Jedi, which, as years have gone by, more and more Jedi seem to have survived Order 66. But just a little bit more, just sort of like just a bit more in that sort of like that beginning of sort of like the Empire.
So you would have changed it then, is what you're saying?
A little bit, but not much. I perhaps wouldn't change it. I would have added a bit on the end. Made it even longer.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, DTM? Would you have changed anything at all?
Yeah, like Des mentioned earlier, that the scene where they go to arrest Palpatine and the other Jedi just get taken out like unprofessionally Jedi people. I'd have made that a bit longer and made it a bit more tense.
Yeah.
All they did was just went through a doorway and that was it, dead.
I mean, to be honest with you, DTM, I agree with that. The last time I saw Jedi taken out that easily was in the Acolyte. It was.
I've never seen
Never saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I think that and the talking bit where they're in that bubble lock. Yeah.
No, behave. You can't get rid of that. That's one of the major parts. That's a great part of the film. You would have got rid of that bit. You would have got rid of that bit, DTM.
Yeah. You didn't need it.
You didn't need it.
We're just revving up what was going to happen. That's all I wanted, were a rev up.
Oh, brilliant.
What about you, Dez?
No, I think it stands up. Like Delvian said, I think it's a good sort of film. It's the like Dave was just saying, that little bit. Why did you need 4 to take him out? If you'd have just took Mace Windu and Anakin, and then they start fighting, well, that would have been better than the 3 just sort of basically falling over.
You passed out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could you have done it that way? That it just felt a bit. Well, these are meant to be Jedi Masters, But no, I thought it. Yeah, like I think it was. Matt said if they put some of the Senate, sort of the early rebellion scenes in, would that make it too long? But then you want it now, looking back, you want it longer, don't you? Like they did with the Lord of the Rings, the special editions.
That's correct. That's correct. I agree with that, Dez.
Yeah, that would be sort of good to see. So you're not necessarily changing the film; you're just making it special edition.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Sags?
I think the only thing that doesn't fit with me was, so I grew up Star Wars Empire Jedi, and I analyzed those films to death. And what little things don't line up about the prequel, like the way the Clone Wars was talked about, like the whole idea that Anakin made 3PO, like what? Like that doesn't make sense according to the other stuff we've seen. And then this part where Padme just gives up and dies, when clearly in Return of the Jedi, Leia remembers her. So I would have had the only change I would have made to this particular one film would be that at the end, instead of them saying she's dying and giving up on life and dies immediately, I think they should have said she may only have another year or 2 in her. Like something's going on and she's like not right or whatever. And then have Bail Organa say, I can take Padme and the daughter and Leia to my place and in secret and hide her away and give her a comfortable place to live out the rest of her life. And then we will adopt Leia as our own so that Leia will always be loved.
So Leia wasn't talking about her adopted mom.
Then it gives you the chance that Princess Leia remembering her mother being sad and all that is still true to the original films.
But she says just visions, though, John. She actually says, I don't really remember, just visions, she said. And that could come from the Force.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But what part was she sad and lonely in that?
I think if it's like that, the Force thing, isn't it? You can... Oh, well, yeah, that's a good point, too, because you can't really touch on emotions, can you, through the Jedi?
Yeah.
Good point,
and there's other points in the original trilogy that I feel like were ignored when the prequels were made, and they just either one of 2 things should have happened. They should have edited Star Wars Empire and Jedi to sort of correct those things for what happened in the prequels.
Heresy.
Or the prequels should have just paid more attention to some of the things said in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing. It's right at the end. It's a small thing. It's not that
Yeah. What about you, Martyn?
I would. The one scene I would change is the scene where Anakin and Padme are on the balcony, and he's telling her how much he loves her, and she's telling, "No, it's because I love you." And it's just like, every
that's
time
what
I
I'm
watch
getting
that
at, Mark. It's cheesy dialogue. It doesn't make you believe they're in love. Yeah.
Can I just say, Martyn, that scene there reminded me of you and Steph when you was up in London that day.
That's how I proposed to her. I dressed up just like Padme, and
nice.
Brilliant. No, but the other scene that I would have loved.
No, I can tell you right now, Martyn would not be caught dead on that balcony with a drop off. No way. Martyn would have been in the apartment way at the back going,
I forgot about that.
By the balcony wall. I'll stay back here.
Yes, true. But and the other scene I would have loved to have seen is that would have come full circle is they filmed it, but they never got Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon because there's a deleted scene where Yoda's communing with Qui-Gon at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and they never got him to record the dialogue, so they never put the scene in. And I thought that would have been brilliant to bring the trilogy full circle, and sent Obi-Wan on his way to learn to commune with him on Tatooine. So they're the only two things I would change.
What about you, Shabs?
I won't change anything. I'm the same as Delvian. One of the nicest things about Revenge of the Sith is it's a lovely story. And so if you come out of a Star Wars movie and you're like, you understand it, the story was flawless, and you thought, yeah, fair enough. It's easy to nitpick about little certain things that could have been right, could have been wrong. But to me, one of the biggest failures of Star Wars now is it's such good storytelling. And I think Revenge of the Sith was a perfect story. So I won't change. I don't think I'd change anything.
I bet the Sith would return library books too. Yeah, more than likely. More than likely. No. Good point. I mean, the thing is, though, they are, it is a story, like you say, you get from point A, B to C, and it's all kind of like, goes together quite nicely. What about you? I mean, I know you said that you would have wanted to see more Vader. Sorry, is that the only thing that you would have changed, or?
No, there's three things I would have changed in Revenge of the Sith.
Wow,
the first one is obviously that I'd like to have seen more Vader with it as the costume Vader. I'd like to see him do a bit of kick-ass and, like how the games were. Second one is that scene that Martyn's talking about where, Padme's on the balcony with Anakin and stuff, and she's got all that beautiful curly hair and the moonlight's on. Well, I would have definitely had her strip off at that scene with that. She had a bit of but she slowly took that dress off and stuff, and that would have made it funny. And the third one is I always found the ending cruel for the Jedi, because I always wished that instead of like the burning scene, that he fell off over like a cliff, like a castle. He fell over the side, fighting. He fell over the side. He looks down. He's gone. Because the way that he comes out that lava and he's 100 degrees burnt, do you know what I mean? The pain of that must have been incredible. Then he sets on fire. And Obi-Wan just talks to him. I loved you and all. The only way I sort of went over it is because, he had just killed a load of kids. And I thought that must have been his way of thinking. How do you like it? But it just made the Jedi look so cruel that he just watched him burn like that and then walked off. Whereas really the honourable thing would have done like the samurai death, come over, lightsaber straight through his head. Do you know what I mean? That's it, over, finish with. So I always found that bit a bit peculiar. I would have rather have changed it, whereas Obi-Wan didn't walk off thinking, is he dead? Is he not dead, in the sense of he saw him there still alive? I would have preferred that. Like,
do you not think though, Simon?
Over the edge, or...
Do you not think though, Simon, with any which way they did? Because that sounds awesome. That sounds like a good thing. Where he fell like in a fog or whatever, you can't see him, so you don't know whether he's. But we know anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because it goes into Star Wars, Return of the Jedi.
I just thought it was cool. Like, why was the Jedi with all good, and the amount that we're told that, like, for me, that seemed like a bit of a Sith death. Like in watching him die like that. Do you know what I mean? Just stood there like. And he's completely burning to death, the agony. And like he says, we're brothers, I loved you. Well, how could you watch your brother die like that? You couldn't. So it was always a bit that stuck with me a bit. I was always like, why couldn't have something happened where it was like an accident death? And then when he comes back, you're like, oh my God, he's still alive. Like,
there's not a great deal Obi-Wan could have done, though, at that particular moment when Anakin was on fire. Apart from like piss on it.
He could have gone down and sort of like waved, like batted the flames out. Like,
no, but you know what I mean, Andy? Why didn't he finish him off? Why didn't he do the right thing and just end him there and then? He knew what he'd become. He knew what he was going to be working for. Why didn't he just end it? Go on, say what you want.
That was the point Matt was saying previously. If you'd have killed him, or Martyn was saying that he thought he was going to die, so he just walked off and left him. But then, like Matt said, that if you went and killed him, he was unarmed, he would have become a murderer. It would have changed Obi-Wan then, wouldn't it, so to speak?
Yeah, just a cruel death to me, I thought. From the Jedi point of view, I thought that death was extremely cruel in the sense of, but I understand why he left him and left him like that. You know?
Obi-Wan could have just walked over to him and force him.
But in a way, it's ironic because that
would have cost him his life.
And the birth of Darth Vader, because obviously the next scene from that, you see him going in and getting all the metal parts, the black helmet coming. And that, when you hear that noise for the first time when that helmet comes on, and it's that.
No one's
ping
mentioned
first,
that
then the
tonight, have
breath.
they? No,
Oh,
good shout.
I mean, seeing that on the big screen as well, I defy any bloke on this panel not to go, what the France? You know, we love that. Yeah,
And you see the breath, don't you? The air move, don't you?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I got double sweaty at that bit. My hands got dead sweaty and everything.
I got a bit excited. Don't say anymore, just in case.
I got dead sweaty. I really did.
And you notice the minute the helmet clicks on, it does a noise.
Yeah, you hear
The
it seal.
soundtrack goes silent.
Yeah.
They just did it again, though, from a great perspective.
Yeah.
Vader's helmet sideways, so close up, every sharp angle. It was like aesthetically beautiful looking at it.
It was.
And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had to
I
like
agree,
double
Ty.
pass the Darth Vader helmet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was clever how they did it, wasn't it?
And when he finds out that Padme's died, and he's just destroying everything, and you see Palpatine like just grin in the darkness in the background, knowing
anger, you killed her.
That plays into the thing I would change.
Brilliant. You change that? No.
But the one thing that's always stuck with me that kind of I didn't like about the film was Padme dying of sadness. Until Carrie Fisher passed away and her mother died 2 days later of the same. She literally died of a broken heart. Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah.
And so then after that, I didn't have a problem with it, but I think I still would change her death.
Yeah.
I kind of like what we were saying before. Maybe she does live for a little while longer, but the reason she's dying is because Darth Sidious is taking her life force to keep Anakin alive, to keep Vader alive until they can get him in the suit. And they don't know what, like obviously the medical droids aren't going to know why they're losing her, and they rush to save the children. And then maybe it's something like Anakin and Yoda figure it out and they're able to find a way to stop it, but it's too late kind of thing. But I think that would have changed the scene a lot more. That and that when you have that scene where he says he just blatantly lies to Vader and says, "Oh, in your anger, you killed her," and he's destroying everything, and you just see that smile on Palpatine's face.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I've got you, son of a bitch, your mind." That's the thing I would, if I were to make a change to this, other than the 4-hour supercut that supposedly exists somewhere.
I would have taken out the no. I didn't like that when he said
yeah, true. And I wouldn't like when they put it in Return of the Jedi. I prefer the scene where he throws the Emperor over the side. I loved how he doesn't say a word, because that's one thing about Vader is like in the suit when he doesn't give a lot of really long speeches. Even like when he's fighting Luke, everything is pretty much short, sweet, to the point. He's never that big dialogue person.
Yeah.
So I mean, for him to just silently just grab him and throw him over the side like that, I think it works a lot better than the no. It just that no, that yelling no, just that's always irked me from the beginning.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, you made some valid points. I've just got one more question to ask you guys before we wrap. Anakin was supposed to bring balance to the Force. In your own opinion, what does bringing balance to the Force mean to you? And we'll start with Dez.
I don't know. Thanks for bringing me first.
I can always come back to you.
Yeah, come back to us. Let me think about it.
Have you seen Star Wars, Des?
Yeah. All right, Delvian.
Oh, thanks, Dez.
Have you seen Star Wars, Delvian?
Yes. Yeah. Because at the end of that film, there's only, actually, there's more than 2 Jedi, but there's 2 Jedi, there's 2 Sith, and it sort of balanced it out. And to me, part of it sort of like was actually the Jedi. There was something wrong with the Jedi Order. It was too bloated. It was just not functioning. Something new was sort of like needed, but it kind of sort of just balanced it. It just cleared the decks for something new sort of like to come up. So yeah, he did. The prophecy was about him, and it wasn't misread. So
okay, Sags.
Oh yeah, I think by the end of the 6 movies, the prophecy was fulfilled, that Anakin brought balance to the Force. And I think it in more of a way of, I don't think the Jedi were ever meant to completely and totally disregard the dark side of the Force. I think that you as a person need to balance your dark and light tendencies. And it's kind of like how, I'm trying to think of some kind of parallels in religion and real life kind of things, but it's like, I think every person has inside them the capabilities of dark and light. And if you purposefully fight the dark all the time and not do anything that could be considered bad, you don't become a completely balanced individual. And I think the balance they're talking about was more of a philosophical or spiritual kind of thing, and not necessarily the number of Jedi versus the number of Sith. I think it's how you look at the Force and how individually you deal with that. And
both.
there's like with the Jedi saying, because way back in the day, the Jedi could marry. The Jedi could feel love. They could feel compassion. They could feel all these things that, they could feel their emotions. They weren't supposed to be like a Vulcan and just deny everything and hide those emotions. They felt them, they dealt with them, and they worked their way through it and hopefully became a better person in the end, balancing all of those emotions. But the Jedi we see in the prequels that led to Star Wars Empire and Jedi, we see a Jedi trying to push away all that they consider to be negative emotions. When a lot of people say emotions aren't positive or negative, it's how you react to them that becomes positive or negative. And I think that's the balance that Vader, Anakin had to bring back to the Force. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, I do.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. No, Martin.
You're trying to bait me with this question, aren't you, Stu? I think I agree with what Andy said, and John. But the thing for me is, right, I think it's everyone overcomplicates this. It's basically the dark side of the Force throughout the prequel trilogy and before the prequel trilogy threw the Force out of balance. Hence why the Jedi couldn't sense the future. They lost a lot of their powers during the prequel trilogy to see things. And the only way to bring balance to the Force is to destroy the Sith and then the dark side of the Force. So there's no Sith left. And Anakin only achieved that once he turned back to the good side of the Force in Return the Jedi, and he killed himself and threw the Emperor over into the shaft in the Death Star. And once that happened, balance had returned to the Force, and what should have happened after that should have been glorious. So that, I mean, I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than that, in my opinion. I genuinely think that's the balance of the Force.
Okay. Shabby?
It's pretty straightforward. His whole prophecy was ending the Sith and bringing balance to the Force, which he did. He just went the long way round doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's nice. I don't think when you're looking at this much tribulation, I don't think it's as easy as just doing it. There's going to be pitfalls on the way and, emotions and what sides to take and so forth. But eventually it came to fruition. And I love the way they did that. I think anyone that's done something like that ended something, it's not going to be an easy task to do. And, and I think it just goes to show, it goes back to the Phantom Menace, where his emotion to attachment ended with Luke Skywalker, ended with his son. So all these people that manipulated him, all these, which side to choose, all these killings and all these things, eventually emotion, which is not a Jedi thing, was the one that finished off brought balance to the Force, which I always thought was fascinating,
Wow. Yeah. Again, a very good point. Matt?
Well, you look at the balance of the Force. I mean, when you start off and you learn about the Force in the original trilogy, it's an energy field that's created by life, and it's what gives it Jedi his powers. And then in the prequels, George Lucas came up with this idea of the will of the Force. The Force has a will. We had the cosmic and the living Force. All, you know, he brings all that into it, which is, I think it's great, enhances the lore. The whole idea of bringing balance to the Force, it was like, you know, because you have the Jedi, the Force kind of strives for balance in all things. Okay, so in the Sith and using the dark side of the Force fundamentally throw the Force out of balance. So it was ultimately, it would be Anakin destroying the Sith, which he did. I mean, it was whether he did it like through the Clone Wars and he accepted his destiny in the Mortis arc from the Clone Wars cartoon, or the way it happens in the films where, you know, it's his fear of losing what he loves drives him to the dark side, and then gaining the love of his son brings him back. And then he destroying the Sith. Sorry. Yeah, but destroying the Sith ultimately brings that balance back, like Martin said. So I think, you know, so that he did fulfill his destiny. He did bring balance to the Force. And if we ever discuss the trilogy that shan't be named, you know, at some time,
no chance.
I'm just saying, I understand, but I'm just saying, there was nothing said that the project was going to last forever. I'm just saying it's because if you do that, then you don't even like the EU books, like, you know, you don't have like Jorah Sabath or any of these other, you know, Abeloth and all that stuff. Things, I mean, it was going to eventually be thrown out of balance.
That's why I think the dark side has to exist to become balanced. You have to have the dark and the light. No balance.
But the whole point, it was like, but the thing is, the way George Lucas set it up is the will of the Force is to achieve balance. Whereas, you know, it's just creating life and growing and just the altruistic things that the Jedi do, you know, using the Force, you know, it helps the will of the Force. And then, but, you know, the Jedi, but the Sith, ultimately they're using the Force as like a source of power for personal gain. It's not, and that's fundamentally throwing it out of balance. And that's why the Jedi, like you said, like I think it was Shabby who said that the Jedi could not see, you know, what was coming, or, you know, and how it was thrown away, you know, how they eventually then lost the order because of that. So I mean, you know, ultimately, yeah, Anakin was the chosen one, and he did fulfill his destiny. But it wasn't a numbers game on how many Jedi, how many Sith there were, or anything like that. It's just basically the balance of the Force itself.
I suppose you could also argue that it's a Jedi prophecy, and we've come to know that there's a lot more religions out there that use the Force, like the Night Sisters and stuff like that. Actually, there's me saying that's as simple as that. Well, actually, no, it's simple as that for the Jedi, but not necessarily.
I see what you're doing there.
Not necessarily for the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah, you want to hear the balance of the Force through Jedi. You don't hear it through any other. That's a good point, Martin.
I would argue the Sith could never be destroyed until you've destroyed every Sith temple, every Sith artifact, every Sith writing. You know,
but if you get rid of the people you get rid of the ones that are using it, and then all of a sudden, you know, the Force isn't being manipulated unnaturally. I mean, even Palpatine says in this movie, like, that the dark side of the Force gives it's an unnatural thing. Like he says, you know, like how, you know, Darth Plagueis was able to use midichlorians to keep people he loved from dying. I mean,
create
stuff
life.
like that, you know, so creating life and stuff like that. I mean, ultimately the midichlorians did that with Anakin. You know, I mean, he's the virgins of the Force.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just.
But someone could find a Sith artifact, and that would corrupt them enough to become, you know, the reemergence.
Maybe. I'm not saying it would never, you know, it wouldn't be like, because they never said it would be permanent either. I mean, it's just
true.
Other than the fact that it really would give the Jedi the upper hand if they were able to eliminate the Sith again. I mean, that's the whole reason they went to the rule of two, was to hide and have this grand plan.
What about you, DTM?
I think you've all said it, really. It's like Shabby said, he eventually fulfilled the prophecy, but the long way around. And if anyone knows anything about balancing, it's Shabby. So
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Oh dear. Sorry.
Oh well, let's be fair. You're all right, every one of you. And then Ray Palpatine come along and took a shit on everything. Rubbed it all in your curtains, in the carpet, on everything. And said, fucking deal with that for the next 10 years. That's what happened there, wasn't it?
Deal with that for 10 years. Brilliant time. Deal with that.
So yeah, it did mean something. Like lightsabers meant something, and the Force meant something, and Jedi meant something. But then it was just slowly destroyed. So what once was doesn't really mean much, does it?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Can I just jump in? Did this do though that when we're talking 20 years ago, lad? So you might or might not remember, but did it give you more excitement to again, like the new stuff does right now, like Andor did and so forth? Does it give you new excitement to watch the first trilogy again? Because apart from Empire Strikes Back, where we knew, that Darth Vader was, ever since then, really, we've always been, what was Anakin like? And you heard Anakin in the first one, and obviously you saw the redemption in the third. But after watching the prequels, especially Revenge of the Sith, did that give you a new thing? So when you heard of Anakin in the original trilogy, it gave you more of a,
Well, when it released the cinema,
it kind of closed the loop, it gives you that, how could, Luke's father, become Vader? It shows you why. I mean,
I love the way Star Wars does that.
How a good person could fall. I mean, that's really what the prequel is showing. The prequels are showing you.
Yeah.
As soon as the DVD came out for Revenge of the Sith, it started a long, long history of movie marathons, watching all 6 films in a row.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point.
So Smith Lord, I mean, he always contributes to these conversations. Ian McDermott is not really that great an actor. I've only seen him in Star Wars and one episode of Spook.
No, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He's great.
There was
what was it? Sleepy Hollow. That's the one. Well. Yeah, he's fantastic in that.
Yeah, he's a stage actor as well, so he's on stage. He's a thespian. You need to educate.
You have to be a woman to be one of those.
Need to educate yourself, Chris Lord. There you go. What?
Yourself before you rate yourself.
Well, I think they've answered all my theories themselves. So I'm just going to cheat and sort of say they've answered it for me.
That's nice.
Nice. I like
that. Brilliant.
What's the bit there? It's like Team America. Hey, Anakin, save your heart.
Thanks, Chris. I choked then.
A bit of advice, Stu. Read it.
Yeah,
I put it up. Especially when it says Smith Lord, right? Read it.
Yeah,
first, then put it up.
Might want to read the entire comment.
Yeah. Oh Christ. Well, I can't see it.
So, what movies have we done now? We did. What have we done? We've done Return of the
Jedi.
Phantom
Menace, Return of the Jedi, and we've done Revenge of the Sith.
How we've not done the original is.
Maybe. We'll do. I enjoy
saving the best for last, aren't we? Saving probably the best. It goes round, like I said. The first choice was mine, which was Return of the Jedi. I think Martin, you were the one that chose them tonight, wasn't it? Revenge of the Sith. So it's the rest of the panels now to pick another one.
We should go back and forth. We maybe do Star Wars, then Attack of the Clones.
Rogue One. I'd like to do Rogue One.
Yeah, and Rogue One.
Rogue One. Especially after Andor, I'd love to talk about Rogue One. But
hey, Badger, how you doing?
Yeah.
Needs to be an original trilogy one next.
I really do apologise to people in the chat. We've had Scuba in the chat. We've had Timothy Bull in the chat. Just hello to all of you. I do apologise. I've not really sort of like kept up on the chat tonight.
Rocket City Sith joined us.
Yeah. Is Rocket City Sith there? Sorry, Brad. There he is. There you are. Hello. How are you doing, sir? Nice of you to join us. Thank you very much.
Why don't we do Star Wars next? And I say Star Wars, not A New Hope, but Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I'd do Star Wars next. I'd do it. I'd do it.
See, Andy comes in here and says all this stuff, and then he says something like that, and totally redeems himself. Not calling Star Wars A New Hope.
Hello, Nick. How you doing, my friend? Nice of you to join us. Thank you. Like I say, TJC in the chat as well. So I do apologise to everybody in the chat. I've not really paid much attention to you guys, so I sorry. And it'll probably be the same tomorrow as well because I'm doing a quiz.
Yeah, but let's be fair. There's been 9 of us on all talking, so bollocks to them. Do you know what I mean?
So I'm skipping a load of chat here.
Actually, JT's right. We have to do Ewoks Caravan of Courage too.
I love that movie. I love that film.
I got it on DVD.
I don't think
I'll do any movie except for and the only reason I don't want to do the last three, to be perfect, I'll be honest with you right now, is because I don't know. I like talking passionately about Star Wars. I like the love, and I like surrounding myself with people. And I think for so long now we've gone through this stuff where everyone's pissed off or everyone's not happy. This is the sort of stuff I like, when you get 9 lads from all different aspects of the world, but we all love and have a passion for the same thing. So it's not a case of not doing the sequels. It's a case of I'd rather choose something that we all love talking about, and and we can agree. Yeah. And even tonight, for example, the stuff that we've all disagreed on, but it's the respect that you have to say, yeah, I can understand that. When it comes to the sequels, you are not going to do that. Are you? No.
No, but I wouldn't do that with Rogue One. To be fair, I'm not a fan of Rogue One. If you to take out Tarkin and if you to take out the Vader hallway scene, I find that film so boring. I really do. I just like
I reckon we do Delvian.
If you didn't watch the film with your head so far up your butt, you would have seen the movie better.
Wow. I reckon we do Delvian.
I love you, brother. You know that.
Well, we've got a few minutes left, so before we go, I just want to say thank you to the chat, even though I basically ignored you all night. I do apologise. It's these guys' fault. I just want to say a huge thank you to the guys that have joined us tonight. We've got Matt's Collection, we've got Martyn, we've got DTM Dave, Shabby, Jonathan Skywalker, also known as Sags, Delvian, Dez T, and Sai. Just quickly before we go, Matt, what have you got coming up? Anything?
Nothing right now. Like I said, life's kind of gotten in the way. So
okay, no worries.
I'll get back to it at some point. I'm just hoping.
No problem at all. Martyn,
I'm just watching the quiz tomorrow night. Can't wait. See who's gonna try and take on my cousin Adam in the final.
Yeah, he's done all right. He's doing all right. Sags, anything coming up? Anything planned?
Still more. I did the show floor for Joe Fest. I didn't take any pictures, I realized, and I could use everybody else's pictures and make an homage. So maybe I will. I don't know. But I feel weird about that because I'd be using other people's pictures that they're probably just going to use in their own videos.
Not me.
So, but we did do a lot of antiquing. So I want to do an antique video, and the fellas took me around to a bunch of vintage toy shops. So there will be video footage of that as well, including me using the Sword of Omens to get sight beyond sight. So yeah, a few more videos about the trip around Joe Fest that'll be coming up.
Okay, no, I've got to say I've thoroughly enjoyed the videos that I've seen so far. I mean, Sai posted a clip on in one of the groups the other day, and it's this guy sitting there chatting, and you could just see Shabby walking into the scene, and he's like,
just our side to show that. Do you know what I mean?
I kept on seeing you pop up on loads of videos.
Oh,
You see, Martyn and Des, it's not just you he takes it, he does it to me too. Do you know what I mean?
You got anything coming up, Shabs? What you got?
Tub Thumpers back on Monday. Tub Thumpers is back. So cool. Yeah, I can't wait. It's been about 3.5 months, 4 months since we did
Monday
it
now.
Monday, yeah, we changed it to Monday because I like doing special live streams. I think one of the nicest things about our community, what we do, is I'm surrounded by interesting people. And so every time someone wants to do a live stream, either like Playmobil to art to comics, I think we all. I'm a person who loves to learn, and I'm genuinely interested in what people collect and stuff like that. So we've left Wednesday open for special live streams, if you will. So you know what I mean. If something comes up, but we've moved it to Monday as well, and can't wait to do Tub Thumpers.
Awesome stuff. DTM.
I've got to go to the chemist tomorrow. I might have a pint and then come home and sit down.
Marvelous. So, if obviously you've got Tub Thumpers coming up with Shabs, but have you got anything else on the horizon?
Yeah. The guy that's on the Tub Thumpers on Monday night, Damien, he actually paid for a commission a few weeks back. So I will be revealing his commission on Monday night at the end of the Tub Thumpers. So new art for Mangafandanga Monday night.
Awesome. Dez T.
Like Dave, I've got to go out during the morning, do a bit of shopping, and then I'm co-hosting with your good self the quiz, as though he's on bridesmaid duties again.
Oh wow! Okay,
So,
cool. So yeah, you'll
If
be
you go
asking
in
the
those days,
questions.
don't forget to take your Asda card because you'll be paying full whack for your milk. But if you take your Asda card, you get 15p off. So
That's a good tip. That.
Asda card, brilliant. Oh, can I just say as well, we've got Call of Duty tomorrow on TJC's. So Call of Duty
Oh,
as well.
okay. Yeah. Cool. Awesome stuff. And Delvian.
Nah, not much. It's too hot, really. I'm just sort of like can't be bothered to do anything apart from get hammered in the garden. So I'm on the quiz tomorrow. So,
You are.
Oh, good luck.
So
That'll be
no,
interesting.
that won't. I'm an unbelief. So it's like
I feel
don't
sorry
know.
for Stu. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Hey, kill
I
two
don't-
birds, do it in your garden, hammered.
I do,
After a long bout of day drinking, just sit there and try to answer those questions, man.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know general knowledge. I don't care about sort of like current affairs. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a laugh tomorrow. Beware, Stu. So
No, don't worry. It's all right.
Brilliant.
It's all right.
The night
Right.
Delvian destroyed Universal Toy Collector. Can't wait. Sounds awesome.
Hello, Phil. Nice you to join us. Thank you very much, my friend. Cheers.
Phil.
I've come in on a deep question. Yeah. I mean, these guys can get pretty deep when it comes to Star Wars. It's but appreciate you joining us. No, it'll be all right. I'm not asking the questions. It's Dez asking the questions, so it's nothing to do with me. I'm just here to try and keep score.
Oh, you're here for the eye candy, Stu.
Well, apparently,
Nice,
that's what they say.
Des.
Use your mic as well. Hello. Nice you to join us.
Mike,
I've been here listening in the background. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mike.
We got Beery. Hi. Nice you to join us. And just want to check and see if anybody else has sort of like jumped in. I am well behind on their chat. I do apologise. Mr. B, good God. Hello, sir. How are you? Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, with that, I think that's pretty much it. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who has bothered to put comments in the chat that I've not read. So thank you. And I just want to say thank you to the panel. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks, Stu.
I appreciate you jumping on, and I love the fact that we kind of like did it in an adult fashion where we didn't sort of like talk over each other and stuff like that. So thank you very much. So we really do appreciate that. Anyhow, we shall see you again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Lovely jubbly. Until then, tutty boys. Cheers. Awkward wave.
Night, everybody.
Stay awesome, everybody.